who we have, many of us, older folks, have watched grow up in this community, and her accomplishments are too many for me to begin to list. But as she converses with Brenda this evening, I think you will come to understand, those of you that don't know her, just why she is such a special, special young lady and part of our community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Brenda Silva, who will be interviewing Raven this evening. Most of you know that Brenda is the gallery assistant here in our art gallery, and she herself is a very talented artist. She's known all over the country, she and her husband, for their traditional dancing, powwow dancing, as well as the beautiful beadwork. She's wearing some of her work this evening, and she makes regalias. She's kind of a one-stop operation for all your native artistic needs. So it's also a real honor that these two ladies could be here together tonight to have this conversation, as they both are extremely talented artists, and I know Raven has been mentored as well by Brenda. So before they get started, I would like to introduce these handsome young gentlemen standing over to my right, Mr. E.J. Plainbull, E.J., and then we have Mr. Tyler Callahan and Mr. Yona Locklear. And these guys are singers, and they drum at powwows all over the southeastern United States and the country. And tonight they are going to present a hand drum song as we open up a conversation with Raven Dial-Stanley.
so much for coming to our honoring for this wonderful, beautiful, talented young Native woman who I've seen grow up. I've been here almost 25 years, and she was just, yeah, she must have been a baby coming along. And worked with her and her family and others who in the community, and it's such an honor that I was asked to interview her. And I'm so proud of her. There's, just like Jennifer said, there's so many words to describe this woman, and all I could say was one word, was beautiful, and it was all wrapped up in one word. So I just want to say it's an honor for me, and thank you all for coming to this special night of her opening for her new coloring book, her native coloring book. She's a performing artist, visual artist, and I'm so proud of what she has done. She's beautiful. She does beautiful clothing. This is all her designs. Actually, I want to buy that dress right there. So, and she does her own beadwork, and I'm so very proud of her. So thank you for having me. I'm honored. So, Ms. Raven Dial-Stanley, first question is going to be, can you share with us a little bit about your background?
Yes, so like she said, this place in particular holds a very special place in my heart, and while I am a proud enrolled citizen of the Lumbee Nation, my home territory is about 2 hours away from here, and my grandparents made the difficult decision in the 70s to move out of their tribal territory for better opportunities, for better economic opportunities, better job opportunities, and education for their future. And so when my family came here, it was very important that we still found our sense of community, and that was kind of how we started getting intertwined with Guilford Native and with many of the amazing people that make up this beautiful community. And so I actually grew up not too far from the Greensboro area in Kernersville, which not many people know, but I feel like people in the 336 know Kernersville. So I actually grew up right outside of here and came to cultural class just about every Tuesday because I knew in my family it was very important for not just me but my twin brother, Ryan, as well, to have a very strong sense of our cultural identity, especially being in a place where we represent less than 1% of the population. So I like to consider myself an urban native. And since then, growing up in powwows and doing things like that has really started my love for art and creation and kind of how I came to this.
It's just really important how she spoke of her family and her tribe is like 2 hours south of here, southeast. I'm born and raised from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but my parents are from Hollister. I'm Hallowasaponi. So we had an urban center also, which very thankful that we had that to go to, like cultural night, just like here they have Tuesday night culture night, and it helps the young we just feel like we're the invisible people in the city or wherever we are when there's only 1% or 2%, whatever, in Philadelphia, we were the only family that were native in that school area. So it's so important how she grew up in an urban Indian center and I grew up in an urban Indian center, and it's, we're very fortunate because not all, cities have it. So next one. What motivated you to create this coloring book?
Yes. So there's a little story that goes behind this coloring book. Of course, as you know, with any artist, when we create with intent, no matter what that is. And I started thinking about this coloring book actually back in 2020 because I wanted to find a way for my art to tell a story of my people, but maybe in a way that we're not so familiar with. I feel like our textbooks loves to leave us in the 1800s, and they love to focus on a very niche and specific group of Native American people that I feel like don't adequately represent my people and the people in the Southeast. And so back in November of 2024, I started thinking about ways to do that, and what actually started is my grandmother. So there is a story about it. When you actually open it up, you'll see that it's dedicated to her, Macy, and she's actually the one that I spoke about that moved here. So you can definitely tell my matrilineal line is very significant to me. And so this is a little bit about it, and I promise in this picture I'm smiling. I've just got the biggest grin on my face because I'm in my grandma's lap. But the story behind this is I believe that I inherited a lot of my creativity from her. And as she began to get older, she now lives in a living assistance and no longer has full mobility of her arms and a lot of her muscles. And so when I would just come visit her on Sundays, you know, as you do talking with your grandma, I would sit there and just start doodling on a piece of paper. And when I would leave, she actually would take those doodles and started coloring them.
Wow.
And we kind of started making it a routine for us. And what I was doing was, with her coloring, I was able for her to use her mind, start working with her hands. And it kind of became a little routine that we did, to where when I would draw something and she would get it colored, we started hanging them on her wall like a little mural that we've created. So there's actually a picture in here of some of her drawing. So she's really the inspiration behind this book, and I felt that if I could bring that joy to my grandmother, I would love to be able to do that to others. And my hope truly is to, with this book, bridge the gap between our generations in our communities in various areas in our tribal lands, and really just bring people together in a way for us to use our hands, because when we're using our hands, we're not thinking about our trauma or thinking about the bad medicines in our minds.
That's so important, because generations, you're the third generation after her, and it's so important for us to communicate with our elders. There are story, we get our stories from them, we get the history from them, not his history, but we get his story.
Absolutely.
And that's so important for, you know, how you had that relationship with your grandmother. You're very fortunate to have that, because not all grandkids do have that. And I'm definitely blessed. I have grandkids and I have great-grandchildren, and all of them, you know, we teach them how to dance and sing, and some of them are artists. My granddaughter, she's an artist. Her work is, and my grandson right here, EJ, he's my grandson. So I'm definitely blessed. I thank the Creator, and it's so important how you look at you and your mother. It's such a blessing, and Dad too. We're not gonna forget about it. But yeah, I really admire you for that, because they need.
Absolutely.
You know, and when my mother was in a facility, she had a stroke and she was paralyzed. That first month, I had her writing words and her name. So it's like it's therapy. You know, we all need it. Absolutely. Next one. Why is there a map of North Carolina in the book?
Yes. So in this book, when you get your copy, you'll turn to one of the couple pages, and I put a map in here, and of course this isn't by any type of scientific definition, but really my sort of just vague interpretation of where the tribes are in the tribal areas. And the reason why I put that there is, when creating this book, and I specified as an indigenous coloring book and really specific to Southeastern indigenous culture, I felt that it was only appropriate to kind of start with explaining to people, well, what does that look like, and who are the Native people that are still here? And we're very fortunate being in North Carolina that we actually have one of the most densely populated areas of indigenous people in the Southeast. So the tribes that are here listed are the Lumbee, the Eastern Band of the Cherokee, the Halawasaponi, the Saponi, the Tuscarora, the Waccamaw-Suwan, the Coharie, and the Occaneechi, which are actually our very close neighboring relatives in the Greensboro area. And like I said, with this book, I wanted not only, my thought to this wasn't just to cater for Native people, but my non-Native allies as well, so that like you could still enjoy indigenous culture but learn a little bit of something about it. Because think about it, do we see these books in our textbooks? We don't. Or I should say these words.
It's so important, because you know, when we grew up, or my mother or father grew up, they had nothing like this, and I'm sure you folks also, your grandparents, and it's so important that you putting this out is to educate and show that there are natives here in North Carolina and on the East Coast, and not just out west, so west of Mississippi. So we're definitely coming. We're getting stronger with our language and our culture, and that's why we do what we do, is to promote it, awareness. So proud of you. Okay, what roles have you played in cultural preservation and education?
Yes. So before I can tell this story, I really have to start with those that, and I hope I can get through this without crying, but those that took the time to teach me. So like I said, I spent countless hours in this very building at culture class, learning dances, and some of my instructors are here, but there's a woman that I really want to highlight in particular that I feel like the amount that I've been able to accomplish to this point, it would not be entirely possible had it not been for her dedicating those hours. And her name is Miss Tabitha Jacobs, and she's back here in the audience. And let's give her an applause. And she's one of those women and one of those artists in our community that she's very humble. So that's why I wanted to give opportunity to speak on her, because she will not speak on herself, but that you see her art before you see her, because it truly speaks volumes. And I'll never forget when I was 15 years old, I took my very first home ec class in high school, and I learned how to sew. And I always grew up in powwows and knowing the appreciation of regalias and beadwork. And I'll never forget coming to her and, realizing like, I want to learn how to make my own regalias. I want to take on that challenge. And as Miss Brenda knows, who is an avid regalia maker in our community, it is a heavy task. It is not easy. And when I came to her, it was her time and it was all the hours in terms of anytime I had a question or text her, or hey mom, I ran out of beads, can I come by and grab some of your beads? Or hey, I'm trying to figure out this pattern, but I don't quite got it right. Can I come show you what I'm working with? And every moment she did not hesitate to open up her home, open up her space, to always teach me. And I feel like as somebody, as an artist, as somebody that's continuing to grow, you're still learning. So I feel like I'm still getting educated on Indigenous education, but one thing that a lot of my elders and the people in my community taught me, that to whom much is given, much is paying that forward. And so when I realized, that I had learned a lot of different things in my community that I wanted to pay forward, it was in 2018, I started volunteering with our local Guilford County Indian Education program and started hosting workshops, starting doing beading classes, corn husk dolls, regalia making classes, powwow classes, and from then I've actually been able to start working part-time as a consultant with Guilford County Schools, to where I've been able to travel in different local school areas and just kind of do different educational lectures and programs, as well as teaching our Native students in the Greensboro area, because we as Native people, and I think this is just our sovereignty that we're enacting, is we know the areas in which our school system lack in our education, and I feel like Guilford Native does an amazing job at combating that and helping to teach our Native students, as well as collaborating with Indian education. So I hope that was a big answer,
Great.
But I hope I was able to answer that.
Great.
That for me to get where I am, there were so many people that were so pivotal in my milestones to get here, so thank you.
And that's so important, because I started when I was about 12, and I've been doing this all my life, over 40 years. It's crazy to say, but I had my elders come to Philadelphia and teach us at our urban center, and I was taught when someone's teaching you, it's your responsibility to teach others. And sometimes we're fortunate, very fortunate to be able to live as an artist, because you hear starving artist, that's definitely true, but sometimes we're lucky to be able to use, have that as our income a lot of times. So it's very important, whatever we learn, we have to pay it forward, just like you said. And thank you, Tabitha. She has helped me several times. I ran out of a certain bead or rhinestones. I was like, Tabitha, you got this. So we have a connection here in Greensboro in different areas. If someone don't have it, this one, someone else might have it.
And so that just goes to show how close knit we are.
Right,
in our
very
community.
close knit, and that's so important. Thank you. Okay, let me see. Can you explain some of the meanings and stories behind some of the coloring pages?
Yes. So in this book, I was very methodical of how I wanted to organize my different art pieces and really tell a story. So in this book, I actually have 4 different chapters, I guess you could say. So the first one starting out being matriarchs. And you can kind of see here for each chapter, I have just a brief little introduction about what that is. So for example, this one being matriarchs, there are 4 different designs that kind of come with this that are surrounded by Native women, and it really just talks about our importance as a matrilineal society, what that means. So one of my favorites is actually...
Ma'am, do you mind passing it around so we can see?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we'll get another book so you can
Okay.
pass that one. I'll get another. You have another one, right?
Okay.
Or Jennifer's getting. Thank you.
Yeah, and so while she's passing around so you can actually see it, this one right here is one of my favorites, and it is actually my sort of iteration of the 3 sisters. So in Native culture, this is a very universal concept that many of us believe in, not just one specific tribe, but the 3 sisters represent corn, bean, and squash. And the reason why we call them that is we truly look at them as sisters. You see, when you plant corn, bean, and squash together, and there's a big scientific term that a scientist probably knows a little bit better than me, but basically what happens is each of them, when they're planted together at the appropriate time, so you have your eldest sister, corn, who is the start, and she's the highest one in the stalk. You have your middle sister, who is the bean, so she actually will wrap around the corn stalks. And having that corn stalk helps the beans to not get tangled up in their coils. And then you have the baby sister, which is the squash, and she actually stays low to the ground. And if I'm not mistaken, there's something about with the squash and the beans that actually help as like a natural pesticide. And so that was an early concept that indigenous people understood when it comes to our environmental knowledge and how to properly garden in our tribal communities. But I love how we kind of look at it as sisters, and the way I interpret it is when we work together as a community, we actually can foster and grow a bigger garden than I think we could ever imagine by ourselves.
All right, that's wonderful. You taught me something today. You know, you're never too old to learn something new. Okay, talk to us about the letter to the owner and what the color palette represents.
Yes. So in this book, once you kind of get a feel for it, you've got my story behind it and the dedication. I also had a letter to the owner, and what I wanted to do was kind of make each book personal. So when each person got this, they kind of felt like, you know, this was theirs. And the letter to the owner, it merely states, it says, "This book is meant to spark creativity and serves as a template for your own artistic expression. You are encouraged to use whatever medium suits you best, whether it's color pencils, watercolors, markers, crayons, or anything else. I've put together a color palette, and this right here, so when I kind of as an artist, and I get a lot of this from my fashion background, working for Lee and different other organizations, is colors is probably one of the most difficult things when I'm designing something to figure out. And so I will oftentimes go on Pinterest and look at just like, for example, the way the sky, the different hues in the skies come out to where you see the bright blues and the pinks and the orange, and I will kind of create a visual color palette. And so what I've got here are just different colors that I felt personally blend very well together. That way, if any person was kind of stuck on, well, I want to use this blue, but how should I color this flower? What should I put with the blue? You kind of see what other colors look well with it. And in this book, I've got a message where I tell the owner, you are free to do this however you want, so you can color inside the lines or not. And with each one of my pages, they are perforated, so you can actually, when you're done with them, rip them out and frame them in an 8.5 by 11 frame.
Oh, that's pretty cool. All right. Talk to us about the letter. Oh, I'm sorry. Oops. Rewind. Since December 2024, when the book launched, what have been some major milestones for you since then?
Absolutely. So in 2024 was when I first launched the book, and I also want to point out that this book, not only is it designed by a local indigenous artist, but it's also printed here locally. So I actually get all of these books printed by Arrowhead Graphics, which was actually founded by Mr. Lonnie Revels, who then passed on to his son Bill Revels. And he is a local member in our community. He's actually the brother of our director here at the Guilford Native organization, and he is also a member of the Lumbee tribe. So these books are not only indigenous design, but they are indigenous made and locally made. And I'm sorry, since December, yes.
Yes, since December.
So since I've launched this book, not only has it been able to go out throughout my community, but I've been able to host a lot of different workshops. So immediately my Guilford County community embraced me, and I was able to host a workshop with our students where they got to color and have just a one-on-one with me where I got to talk about the book. My book has also been purchased by the Lost Colony gift shop, so you can actually purchase these books in the Lost Colony in Manio, North Carolina. The Town Creek Indian Mound Visitor Center has also purchased these in their gift shop, as well as some of my local areas in my tribal community. So at the UNCP Southeastern American Indian Art Museum, you can purchase these books as well, along with one of my local jewelry stores that's very well known in the Robinson County area, and it's a Lumbee jeweler, Sine's. They have also brought these books into their store as well. So I've been very appreciative to get to work and collaborate with a lot of different Indian organizations, as well as educational school systems.
That's so nice. It's very important, I tell you. And you're going to be getting a whole lot more. I'm sure different other tribes are going to want to, purchase for some gift shops for the galleries and for their children's cultural. Okay. When creating, where do you draw your inspiration?
So like I mentioned before with my designs, I definitely wanted to try to depict different aspects of Indigenous culture in a narrative that we don't typically see. Like I said, I feel like our history books tend to paint us as, the sad, poor Indian. And quite frankly, I'm kind of done being in those shoes and being in that misconception of the sad, poor Indian, when there are so many more beautiful, amazing aspects of our culture that don't always get the light shared on them. And that was kind of one of the inspirations for a lot of my drawings, is showing the beautiful aspects about our culture. So there's another chapter in my book that's called The Celebration of Dance, and the chapter merely states that, when the colonizers came here due to boarding schools, we weren't allowed to do a lot of our dances, and so we celebrate them now. And so a lot of my designs come from different aspects of plants that we use for medicine, such as sassafras leaves, sage, sorghum, but these things can specifically be found in tribal territories among the Southeast, like the Lumbee people, the Halawasaponi people, the Wakamasuan people, the Coharie people.
That's so important. How we talked about how we have urban Indian centers, the ones that grew up in the cities. When I was young, before we had our urban center, we used to go to a church and practice dancing and singing and making crafts. And a lot of times back then, way before us, they weren't allowed to, practice the culture. So that was the beginning when we were able we started bringing it back, which is so important.
And I think so many people like you that set that pathway for somebody like me, because I can imagine, especially being in those time periods, it wasn't always easy to be Native American and easy to say that you were Native American and to be proud of that. And so I thank you for really setting the path for artists like me.
Oh, I'm very such an advocate. When I was growing up, since I'm light-skinned, I had a hard time with my older brothers. They teased me so bad, so it made me very aggressive growing up. So I've traveled national and international, and I've traveled with other natives from all across the country. And yeah, I went through the prejudice, but I always, I guess growing up with two older brothers that taught me how to fight and defend myself, it helped me a lot. And living in Philadelphia, the city, helped me. But it was a struggle, and when my kids grew up, I taught them, and I teach whoever the children I teach today, always be proud of who you are before you find out somebody else's heritage. Try to find out your heritage. It's so important because it gets lost so easily. And now, this is her generation, and it's important for her to carry on what she's learned, and then the next, so that we stay alive and strong. All right. Okay, do you have a preferred art medium that you'd like to use when you're creating?
That's such a tricky question. Since I was 15, I started doing beadwork. I started learning how to do that. I started learning how to sew, and that's what kind of sparked my wanting to go to UNCG to pursue a career in fashion. And then I started painting, and then I started digitally drawing. So these behind me are different examples of just different types of mediums that I do. And I guess to answer your question, there isn't one that I favor over the most. I feel like art is truly my medicine and my therapy. So it's more of in what space am I in mentally, in what space is my medicine in, and that kind of medium, you know, finds me, and that's what my preferred medium is, in the space, in the mental space that I'm
All
in.
of it. It's all of
You
it.
get a little crazy.
Yeah, it's like what room you're sitting in and what's available and what's on your mind at that time. Because sometimes I sew, I do alterations, and I make cloth outfits. So I have a sewing room, and then I have my living room where I bead. So I'm like, all right, what am I going to do today? So I feel like doing that
don't wanna
today. It's
see
like, and then I want to
my
drive. I'm not drive. I want to draw and paint. So I have that sitting, waiting for me to do it, and it's just taking the time to do it. So hopefully one day I will. All right, well, I think that's about it, and just want to thank you for what you are doing and showing, and you know, you see the younger ones that are coming up, and they admire you so much, and you show beauty within. You're gorgeous outside anyway, but within you show beauty in and out. So I just really appreciate you, and everybody else does.
And I just wanted to say one last thing about the book. So in my book, if you do get a chance to purchase it, there's a QR code on the back. So anything that you do or color, you're welcome to take a picture of it. And if you scan this QR code, it will actually, you can upload that picture that will be linked directly to my Google Drive, where I've actually been able to see since December different ways that people have been able to use my coloring book, and they've been able to share their art with me. So it's been really awesome. So yeah, definitely take a look at that QR code in the back.
And you see all her mediums. She has street clothing, sweatshirts, t-shirts. You do pants too?
No, I'm not there yet. That's
Not
the
yet,
dream,
but she
though.
has the sweatshirts, t-shirts. She's a painter. She does formal wear, her beautiful beadwork, her dancing dress, jingle dress, and she even does her lumpy traditional patch. It's called pine cone patchwork. So that's all her. And her coloring book, which is beautiful. The colors are so vibrant. So thank you.
Before we
Can't wait to see where
finish up, does anyone have any questions that you'd like to ask our author and artist and all the other titles that she wears?
What is your favorite piece in your book? My favorite piece in my book? There's so many. I think one of my favorite pieces would actually have to be this one right here. So there's actually a specific reason that I put hummingbirds in this book, and the hummingbirds actually represent my mother, and that was one of the emblems that she wore when she first started into the arena. And so this one's actually on my chapter about Creator's gifts, which shows the different animals that Creator has gifted us with. So one of my favorites is this one right here with the hummingbirds in it. Thank you.
I have one more thing. I'm sorry. I have one more thing to say. This young lady, she has represented the Native people so well. She's former Miss India, North Carolina, and you've been princess here, or was it just Miss India, North Carolina?
Miss Guilford, Miss Nick Nayo.
Miss Nick Nayo. I knew she had two titles, but I was trying to remember. But yeah, she Miss India, North Carolina, and so
She does it all.
Represents very well.
And we have to say that she and her mother, Nora, hold Nora was our first Miss India, North Carolina, and we're very extra proud of this because we love our tribal communities, but these ladies came from an urban community, and that speaks even more volume, you know, to the fact, because we're so spread out over 11 counties. So, and we don't see our tribal people every day. So the fact that the first Miss India, North Carolina, and later years, her daughter Raven, and you're the only two, please, Nora. Right? You're the only two, one time that has happened. The apple did not fall far. And I do want to acknowledge while we're speaking about Nora. Nora is the chair of our board, the Guilford Native American Association, our chairwoman. I'd also like to acknowledge Miss Elena. If you'd stand up and be recognized. Elena is our newest employee at Guilford Native, overseeing programs and doing an incredible job. And then I'd also like to acknowledge Steve, Raven's wonderful father. Very supportive father in all their endeavors. And we also have Wanda Atmore, who is looking after my grandson. Wanda oversees our human services programs and the WIOA program. So we're going to close out with one more drum song. And but before we do, Raven, we couldn't let this evening pass without sharing something special.
Hey, that's my book.
I thought about that, and we have a part.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
I was trying to call her. Flowers. She was already in the market,
These are
in the
perfect.
store to
That
get
is
pink
so
flowers.
It's like we gotta have.
We were reading the thinking the same.
Oh yeah. So at this time, we'll bring Yona, EJ, and Tyler back up for our closing drum song. Thank you, everyone. And as soon as we finish here, Raven will move over to the table where she'll be available to autograph books if you're interested in purchasing one. Think about, it's not too soon to think about gifts for holidays. I'm buying for every little one I know. So thank you.